No. Get off! Get off! Get off! Get off! Get off!
Hi, I'm Ross Barry and you're watching 5 at 5, Friday, May 22. Well, 4 of the coast's Labor politicians have warned of mayhem on the state's trains and buses when some 40,000 commuters are expected to return to work from Monday. Under current COVID-19 restrictions, capacity on trains will be limited to 35 people per carriage and just 12 people per bus, with commuters allowed only to sit on seats marked with a green dot. No dot, no spot, as it were. The state government has also appealed to commuters to avoid travelling at peak hours or to consider drive and park options where possible. But Shadow Minister for the Central Coast, David Harris, said the reality is that trains from Newcastle will likely be full by the time they reach Gosford or Woy Woy, causing delays and crowding on platforms.
We've got real concerns about this announcement. There's not been enough lead-in time and proper preparation to put in place the strategies needed to make sure that people can keep social distancing on our public transport system. The Premier has announced that all school children will go back to school on Monday, and that means that those young people will be also using public transport to get to and from school. So what are commuters supposed to do? They may have the app that shows that there's some spare seats, but once they get on the train, if those seats have been taken, do they get off at the next station? Are station staff going to have to police this? So the government hasn't given people enough warning. They haven't put in place proper strategies for regional areas like the Central Coast, where people are on trains for a lot longer than they are in the city. And they certainly haven't told people enough information about how the system's going to operate.
And Pete Allaway, Acting Chief Executive for New South Wales Trainlink, issued a statement to staff this week saying that they should encourage customers to play their part in helping keep the network safe, but that it is not their job to enforce physical distancing. And that begs the question of whose job it is. Central Coast Parents and Citizens Association President Sharon Brownlee has raised similar concerns as thousands of school children are set to return to classrooms full-time from Monday. Premier Gladys Berejiklian earlier this week said significant work had been done to ensure schools were safe and ready to resume face-to-face teaching under suitable COVID-19 restrictions. But Brownlee says the return to schools is not without its challenges.
Thanks, Ross. Yes, I spoke with Sharon on this issue earlier today, and this is what she had to say.
Look, the children are really excited. They're happy to be back at school. They've missed their friends, but they've also missed the classroom and the structure and their teachers. So children are genuinely excited, and that includes secondary students, surprisingly. They're keen to be back at school as well. I think schools have done everything they can. They're really well prepared now. The cleaning, the sanitising, the duty of care has always been there. So we're really confident that children will be happy and safe back at school. The only concern really has been about transport, and that's about dedicated school bus runs versus public bus runs where public social distancing is in place. Parents are concerned there'll be enough buses and children won't be left behind at bus stops. Not everyone drives, and we have a lot of communities up here on the Central Coast, and student transport's a really big issue.
Well, a major political stouch has erupted over the coast TAFE colleges. Parliamentary Secretary for the Central Coast, Adam Crouch, issued a statement earlier in the week announcing a 4% increase in enrolments since 2017, and that the ALP members should stop scaremongering over privatisation. Crouch said the state was 100% committed to Gosford TAFE and it was not to be privatised. But Shadow Minister David Harris said the recent increase in enrolments don't come close to making up the declines over the last 10 years. Here's more of what David had to say.
We know that over that period of 10 years there's been significant drop in enrolments, and while the government might claim a small rise currently over the last 2 years, it certainly gets nowhere near making up the numbers that have been lost over that 10-year period. We know the government now doesn't like to use the privatisation word. What they do now is talk about outsourcing, and one of the things we know with TAFE is they're looking to outside organisations to run courses, etc., to share the TAFE facilities with business, and that is privatisation by stealth. We know the model of vocational education, which was outsourced to a lot of private providers, proved disastrous because many of those fly-by-night providers rip students off, and it's cost the system not just millions but billions of dollars.
In other news, Australian Law Society President Pauline Wright, who's based here in Gosford, was this week the victim of an attempted identity theft. An unknown person set up a fake Instagram account and began contacting Pauline's friends and colleagues.
I don't know what they've been able to glean from what they've done, but they certainly used a photograph of me that they'd got from the public domain as the fake profile photo for the fake Instagram account. And that's really, it puts a nasty feeling in you, in your gizzards. I think that the Australian legislation needs to be constantly monitored to make sure that it is keeping up. I think that we historically have been a little bit behind the pack compared to our international counterparts, say in the US, but a lot of attention is being paid to it, and that's a good thing. Well, it actually went quite well. Once I discovered it was there, I got everybody to block that person and report it, and because there was quite a number of reports, including from me, Instagram did remove that account straight away, which was fantastic within a pretty short time.
And finally, Tuggera's Senior Sergeant John Thompson handed in his badge this week after a long career in the New South Wales Police Force that began in 1962. He provided these reflections on over 50 years of service.
Through all the Vietnam demonstrations, I was there the day that the LBJ came to the country, and I was at a demonstration on that particular day. It was a pleasure to come to work on many occasions. Of course, there's other occasions that there wasn't when things had happened, but I work with, and I found the people I work with were loyal and competent people, and they all that I've worked with tried hard and did the job.
And what a great career and a great loss for the Force. Back to you, Ross.
Thanks, David, and may the Force always be with you. Well, for those eagerly awaiting the arrival of the New Zealand Warriors, they're here. Our sports-loving German producer Alex Herget, who ditched the Mariners this week in favour of our new NRL team, caught them in action at the stadium this morning. For those of you who enjoyed the amazing Anzac Day opera performance at Central Coast Stadium that was live streamed all over the coast, another dazzling performance is in store. Coast Opera Australia is set to perform Disney to Diva on June 7 and promises another moving and uniting experience. Keep an eye on our website as we'll have more details on that in coming days. And one of our hottest trending stories on the website today is about World Bee Day and calls from member for Gosford Liesl Tesh, herself an avid apiarist, to support struggling beekeepers and the revival of bee colonies following the bushfires. In case you didn't know, this week was National Volunteering Week, and Volunteering Central Coast announced Paula Howard as the Coast Volunteer of the Year. Paula has worked tirelessly for Meals on Wheels for 21 years and is renowned for dressing up on special occasions to brighten up the lives of those she visits. Bo Barton was named Young Volunteer of the Year, while Jane Moat was named Living Legend Volunteer. And Central Coast Newspapers extends our deepest gratitude to all the thousands of volunteers across the coast who we work with and who keep our community whole. And since we were on the subject of trains earlier, we leave you this week with some of the sounds of the Phoenix Collective from their upcoming live-streamed event, Different Trains, somewhat topically reflecting on train travel in the 1940s. I wonder if they had no dot, no spot policy in those days. Coast Community News issue 243 was out, hot off the press this morning. You can grab your copy at any one of our 450 distribution points around the coast. See you next week.